Hello, welcome to our special presentation today. My name is Karyna Radchenko. As a partnership for advancing innovative sustainability, it's a great honor for me to have this book presentation of books that I particularly love very much and read it already several times. Very insightful and interesting. Written by Mykhailo Rushkovskyi, who is a profound expert in the field of risk management, but also energy sector specialist working for transnational company. And Mykhailo has also defended his PhD in the field of risk management. So today we will stop on the risk management for international corporations of energy sector. Mykhailo, thank you so much for finding time. It's a really great honor to learn from you today.
Karyna, thank you for the great introduction, and I'm really happy to be here and have this opportunity to share. I also got the book with me, so basically this is sort of a wrap up of the PhD work that I've completed during the previous 4 to 5 years, and yeah, I'm really happy to share what's inside. What were the factors and the stimulus behind writing this research work and basically publishing into this handbook that I find really useful, and hopefully it will be really helpful for other professionals or researchers in this domain that may use it for their further developments.
That's amazing. So let us probably start with your amazing presentation. It would be great
Yes, so
to learn
sure.
very insightful book, really. And now
Yeah,
we'll provide our viewers unique opportunity to briefly understand what is really inside and maybe inspire and empower them to read as well the full version.
yes. Thank you, Karina. Let me try sharing my screen with the slide deck. So please let me know if you can see the title page.
Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah, so this is the one. This is the cover page for the book, and the name is a bit long, but it follows the PhD research that has been completed, and the book is about the determinants or the factors of the corporate risk management strategies in multinational enterprises, specifically in energy sector. But we can already see that this work is applicable not purely for energy sector, but for a broader non-financial sector, and it in a way helps multinational enterprises in their journey to adapt global challenges and drive the sustainable growth. The book is pretty fresh; has been published this year, 2025, and it basically helps us to understand how we can transform the risk management into a competitive corporate advantage. So, just a very brief about myself, Karyna has already introduced the main milestones of my professional and educational and academic development. Still, I'm an experienced risk manager with a history of more than 10 years as for now, as heading risk function across different industries. It's energy, oil and gas, chemical, insurance in both state and private sectors. And also in 2022, I was honored with the European Risk Management Award winner in Business Continuity Program of the Year. And I'm also holding the MA and MBA International Business, as well as recently achieved the rank of Philosophy Doctor in International Economic Relations. And if we talk about the book itself, so we need to answer the question why this book matters for business. And many of our enterprises, many of our businesses across the world are now living and operating in so-called VUCA world. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity that clearly require adaptive risk strategies on one end. On the other hand, we have like a history of catastrophic events in energy sector, in specific about the Deepwater Horizon 2010 Fukushima event in 2011, they underscore the severe consequences of weak risk governance, and it's also reflected in the book, as well as the evolution of rethinking. So previously, for long decades, we considered risk as something that needs to be avoided, and the models were basically constructed taking into account the avoidance-based approach. And now we need to replace it by proactive and opportunity-driven framework for our strategic business resilience. And in this way, the book also includes the new perspective that introduces the concept of risk management 2.0 for the international multinational enterprises to build up their resilience strategies along with the global risk determinants. We started the discussion about the evolving business risk landscape in the energy sector, and we clearly see again it's not only relevant for energy sector but for other businesses, the macroeconomic and geopolitical volatility. Again, the economic cycles are getting more shrink and more frequent, with the financial instability introducing something new in risk domain, unpredictable exposures for global firms, as well as the topic of climate change. So physical and transitional climate risks, including carbon pricing, the due diligence for sustainability and others, they affect the operations. They create the factors to review the asset valuation and as well as the reputation on global markets. And this altogether moves with the rising regulatory complexity in this is specific for energy sector when we have a tighter compliance framework that also require and challenge the existing risk management systems across the globe. And no surprise, economy for all and the artificial intelligence. So we're moving into the new phase of global economic cycle with the digital transformation presenting new cyber threats, workforce disruption, and income inequality risks to our environment, to our landscape, along with great opportunities that we already have with the economy for all, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, big data, and other benefits that are accompanied with with these developments. We started today like short presentation with how we can challenge this new landscape, new determinants, and why current existing risk management practices are falling short to address these challenges. First of all is the fragmented governance. So we don't have this sufficient level of integration between risk management and corporate governance that basically work in silos and create blind spots. Also, we over rely on the historical data. So we think that if we sort out some patterns from the previous events, we can easily predict the future outcomes. That shows up a bit irrelevant, as I usually say during the conferences, that don't be a person who still lives in 2019. Just remind the situation in the stance of business, stance of life in 2019. It's pre-COVID, it's pre-war, it's pre-tariffs, it's pre-AI, and a lot of things didn't even exist and cannot be imagined in 2019. And we're now in 2025 with very different world, and it's only a 5 year span. And this also brings us that the scenario planning with the current risk management frameworks, they are relatively weak, and they are insufficient to model these extreme risk, extreme outcomes like so-called black swans events. And also the factor of ESG integration. So if you fail the previous existing risk management practices, they are likely to fail to meet this ESG integration that is responsible not only for today's business, but also for the business of tomorrow. And another point that I specifically addressed in the book, and that was a challenge for me as a risk practitioner, is comparing the risks of a different nature. For example, the modeled risks like pricing or different volatilities versus the non-model risks like geopolitical or regulatory, And the current system, they actually falling short in comparing, let's say, apples to apples. And in this way, and the book is pretty thin. We have more than 200 pages, but one of the sections that I'm the most proud of is actually sort of a solution to the situation when I introduced the concept and the framework of risk management 2.0 that has four components. First one is integrated risk and opportunity governance, when we bring together the KPIs and also the risk on the other end, and it basically enables proactive decision making. Then we have advanced insurance strategies. Again, one of the parts of protecting the business is insurance. And we need to also look at different new products like war insurance, like cyber insurance, like index insurance for the renewable energy assets. That basically increases our flexibility and enhances the protection of the business itself. Something new, a part of the framework, is the internal consulting model. So the risk teams, upon achieving certain level of maturity, they become internal consultants, like competitors to Big Four or McKinsey or BCG or Bain, for their own companies, and they can work as they can perform three roles, like doctors, experts, or execution partners. The difference is like doctors, they can examine and provide advice to top management on the risk landscape of specific business or enterprise. On the other hand, experts, have the bunch of knowledge, experience, and tools that can tackle specific new threats and needs of the business to maintain its operations and sustainability of the business itself. And the execution partners, sometimes risk teams, can support line management in their day-to-day work and day-to-day challenge, and to improve and run the processes more efficiently. And the final component is the combined risk indicator, CRI. So this is a unified metrics that holistically ranks and compares the modeled and non-modeled risks that we just recently discussed, and based on their severity and probability, and also taking into account the key financial performance of the enterprise, like free cash flow, earnings before interest, trade depreciation, etc. So this is something that is already in the book. And while implementing the risk management 2.0, it will help to build up the business resilience. This is something that we're talking a lot now. So how we can maintain the sustainable growth and development of specific enterprise. And again, within the book, I discussed the business resilience elements, like 6 of them. We started with the business model resilience, when we basically continuous monitoring of global market and consolidated evaluation of the threats using the CRI that we've just discussed with risk management for all. Also, the reputational integrity, when we align with our stakeholders, and proactive reputation risk analysis to address the reputational challenges. Strong supply chains, physical security measures, digital twins contribute to the continuity and safety of operations for the business. Again, finance business is always tightly linked to money, and we need to have early warning mechanism and prioritization of financial risk to reinforce our financial resilience and financial position, as well as technological and organizational elements when we talk about IT, operations, production cycles, etc. So our internal framework is resilient to any internal or external disruptions. And again, all this is covered within the book that is already available. And Karyna is a great ambassador of the UN Sustainability Development Goals, and hopefully, this book will help also to address the UN SDGs. With I just outlined like five different goals that can be supported by using this research reflected in the book. First one is clearly affordable and clear energy. So we're talking about renewable investments and promoting higher energy efficiency within the risk frameworks. We talk about automation and AI related risk management when we want to create inclusive and sustainable growth models for our businesses, supporting the resilient infrastructure. And if we talk about the industry innovation and infrastructure, when we talk about digital twins, cybersecurity, innovation-oriented risk assessments. Number 13, climate change and climate action. Clearly, we have a specific section in the book oriented for ESG and how we can implement ESG risk framework into the operations of the company, and as well as the strong institutions. So institutions are always based on strong governance structures that were transparent and efficient. And again, in the book, I try to state out the specific structures that prove themselves to be effective and efficient in the current business environment. And again, the challenge and the opportunity at the same time is turning risk into strategic advantage. So rethinking the strategy, moving from risk avoidance to value creation through risk management and the risk governance and dynamic opportunity capture. Implementing risk management to zero. Yes, this is the concept that not only theoretical but practical. It has been already implemented at different companies in different sectors and proven it to be effective and efficient to support the business. Building up enterprise resilience. So we strengthen our system across the key domains that we've just discussed to gain the security competitive edge and be resilient and sustainable during the periods of crisis and gain as much as possible during the recovery. And we see that the cycles again are getting more and more tight, and we need to maintain this level of resilience. Using the predictive tools, one of the things that is very practical, and I'm using it on the regular basis already now in my current workplace, is the key risk indicators, as well the risk appetite. It helps us to navigate in a more efficient way and a more agile way through the challenges and risks that we already face within our work. And again, integrating the new global drivers, climate, regulatory, technological things, risks, and challenges into our framework, and we can address them in a safe and reliable manner. And maybe the final thing, the final note on my short pitch deck of today is basically where to get the book. So again, I have mine with me, and currently it's available only in Ukrainian. I'm actively working on the English translation, so hopefully within the next months we'll finalize the English translation. But so far, the Ukrainian version, you can order just addressing and contacting me on LinkedIn for a copy or for related questions. And with the English version, we'll have a global coverage with Amazon when we have not only the paper version of the book, but as well as the digital formats for English and Ukrainian. So this is something that I was ready to share for today, and let me just come back to you, Karyna, and I hope that this, I don't know whether it was short or not, page deck on the book that helped to just give a glance, try to squeeze it in the short period of time, just highlighting the main things. But you already read it. I mean, you've been pretty good in that one. It's like the book is pretty long, and hopefully you have some questions on that one that we can discuss now.
Mykhailo, thank you so much for this really comprehensive presentation. And it was super insightful and really multidimensional. Among other things that empowered, that impressed me in this book, it's not about describing, just classifying the risks or overall risks canva. It's about finding particular solutions. Thank you so much to the also for this linkage to the real world environment, to the practical examples, and speaking about the companies. It's very important not to be risk averse, but like you've mentioned, find these values, additional values of dealing with risks efficiently and understanding that risk avoidance probably could minimize the results achieved. But when we deal with the risks comprehensively, like you've highlighted, it's very important to bring this paradigm into practice, and really very insightful. Speaking about some questions, you have already mentioned your career and some motivations on your path, but maybe you could elaborate more a bit on this. Maybe which works have shaped your inspiration to write this book, or maybe turning points into your life. What made you so devoted to this energy field, but also risk management as such? Thank you so much.
Yes, very good question, Karina. And this was sort of a personal, initially a personal need. So when I was moving in my professional path from insurance risk analysis, so I started my professional path in insurance. I was the analyst and underwriter, so I was basically evaluating the risk for the insurance company. Then I tried to get a more enterprise-wide. So I went from the risk analysis for specific business, but also I started covering the insurance company itself. So the risk of the insurance company. It was like a staff professional one that basically led me to opening this new perspectives, new domain of the risk management and the broader scope. And clearly, it started with the financial sector. But at that time, I was working back home in Ukraine, and we had the revolution of dignity, and we had new corporate governance requests that arose for the national enterprises. So I went and I took this challenge to join in the largest oil and gas producer, oil and gas group in Ukraine, the state-owned Naftogaz of Ukraine. And my task was basically to build up the risk management framework from the ground, from level zero. So it was not existing before I stepped into the office of Naftogaz. And at that point, I found that I would be really happy to have this book with me, just a playbook of how to do it from scratch. What tools should I use? What governance structure itself? But again, at that point, I was not able to obtain this kind of books. I was building up on the practical knowledge along the way, communicating with different institutions, best practices, standards, and also the realities and the challenges that we have on the ground in the business. And at some point, I realized that a good piece of work has been completed. And why not sharing this experience, sharing this knowledge with the others? Okay, I talked to my scientific supervisor, academic supervisor back in the university, saying, I have this request, I have this desire to put it on paper, to make it like a standard, a playbook. And was really lucky to have my academic supervisor, Dr. Rashalov, said, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And this was the beginning of our PhD journey that ended up with a successful defense of the thesis. And then basically the next step, okay, the thesis is like pretty big scientific work, and it's like big format, not really handful and useful. So then I said, okay, let's have this book published. So any risk professional, for now, mainly in Ukraine, who's Ukrainian speaking, but hopefully in some time globally with the English coverage, any risk professional just take this book and use it as as I would love to, like years ago. So this is like a way of evolution of my professional and academic perspective in this regard.
And that's the biggest value when the book is written, so to say, by the author for himself or herself, because then it's really valuable because it reflects the needs really, and it's really like you mentioned the playbook or guide because it's easy to read. At the same time, it's so super insightful with these practical pieces of. Knowledge to be implemented. And you also identified quite many determinants practically. Some of them you have mentioned also during our presentations. And you've also mentioned that this risk canvas, so to say, is constantly expanding. We will not be living in 2019 to reference you because every day the new risks with AI and overall this changing frameworks. So speaking about the risks determinants like economic, climate, geopolitical, technological, when the companies compete, to which of these particular factors should they pay more attention, so to say, today? Maybe you could also elaborate on this ESG situation because we now know how much the risks of not maintaining environmental principles can cost for the companies. Just not even to mention this Volkswagen crisis, but many, many others.
Yeah, it's a very fair point, and just start from the end of your question. It's not only like for big machinery or automobile producers, but for my native industry, the energy sector. This is like super important. I mean, we are one of the, as a business, as the industry, one of the main uh, producers of CO2, and all these regulations are like down to earth and very, very relevant to our business. And in this way, the first step basically to analyze what is more important as of today, what is like secondary priority, etc. for a specific business is to analyze nature of business. So, for example, we talk about energy. Clearly, it's climate change. Clearly, it's regulation and regulation on, let's see, the market, market behavior, insider trading, etc., the production, etc. And on the other hand, we have forward-looking factors, like you mentioned, ESG. We have cross-border carbon pricing for energy, not only energy good, but also for uh, the other products that enter the market or export from the market, as well as we have the uh, sustainability in a very broad scope that can be very important for different industries. So my recommendation is just switching hats between a risk professional and academic scholar. So I'm just putting now back the academic, oh sorry, with the risk professional hat, and I would say that we need to determine and prioritize the weight of various factors that create this pressure, as you mentioned, and how we can use the mechanism and the tool that I called combined risk indicator. We mentioned in the presentation the risk management framework 2.0 that includes the combined risk indicator to help to better understand what are the risks more relevant, what we should prioritize, and should we have the more focus on our financial scope or environmental scope or reputational scope or governmental scope or regulatory. So these tools will help the business to understand and to build up this framework. And as you say, I really like the term that you introduced, the risk canvas. Okay, so this is what we have on the table. Now we need to structure and to put it into order, into sequence. And then once we have them, let's say, sorted out, structured, we can start addressing these risks in a broader scope, not only seeing the risk, but again, seeing the opportunity and building up this holistic resilience framework. So, like wrapping up an answer to your question, start analyzing, use the tools that already suggested, and move forward. again, as per the evaluation analysis that you made. And the role of risk team, again, a doctor or an expert or just the supportive hands.
Yes, it's very important point that you have mentioned, and it's also about like choosing, so to say, competitive advantages within the company and seeing how to manage efficiently this. Because sometimes, like you've mentioned also in your book and overall, sometimes the certain determinants which are very much underestimated, so to say, the probability is super low, and this Gauss volatility of risks tend to be like kind of maximum in this connection. So the losses could be inappropriate and even unbearable for the entities.
Yeah, excuse me, just I mentioned one, sorry for interrupting. I mentioned one thing, I just reminded me that at one of the conference we were discussing the problems you just raised and the challenges and the role of risk management and all this exercise that I've just described is sort of similar in marketing. We call it the wow effect. So in risk management, we call it O effect. So when you start analyzing and you get the results, you get, oh, this is the problem. So this is our challenges. So now you have a structured and clear, comprehensive way of thinking and strategic development. So once we get this O effect based on the exercise, this is the milestone for building up the business resilience, I would say.
Yeah, really like oh and wow effect. Yeah. And speaking about, I hope our interview, our presentation today will be watched also by the professionals, very field professionals in the field. So it's also super useful as you draw these parallels with sustainable development goals. So it's useful for the broad audience and overall raising awareness because it is applicable to everything. Even I would say, not only to entities, but to personal life efficiency. We can borrow some kind of techniques from your book. But speaking about this risk manager in the energy fields, what particular kind of wow tools would be driven by your book in this connection?
Uh, Overall, for let's say risk management domain of an enterprise, during the research, I devoted specific section number 2, that includes all the existing tools that are available and developed. Yeah, we have it starting from page, was that 71. So the methodological tools that already, like, I mean, take it and use it, and a lot of tools that are applicable for day-to-day operations. But some things that you mentioned can be not only used in business life, but also in our personal life, is clearly the so-called key risk indicators that helps us to understand how the dynamics of a risk or an opportunity. And sometimes it is put together with KPIs. So KPIs is how we can grow, and key RIs, key risk indicators, helps us what can forbid us of achieving our growth target in a more dynamic way. So sometimes we look at risk, I don't know, on a quarterly basis or semi-annual basis or so, and these indicators, they help us understand whether the situation is getting better or worse. Are our risk mitigations efficient or not? Do we need to implement something else extra or amend our existing or update our existing risk management approach? This is here. I made an interesting research and example of the US real estate market crash in 2008 that led to the global financial crisis, 2008, 2009. And I made an example what risk indicators would have shown us that the situation is getting bad, from bad to worse, in fact, at that specific time. So this tool, again, is described in the book. and can be helpful for our personal and business life. And again, I'm really proud of, and I want to reiterate it once again about the risk management 2.0 framework. It's all practically driven. So this framework, this concept was born out of a practical need, and basically it covers the practical need of certain multinational enterprises and helps us to again make our framework more efficient and more effective in addressing the threats and the challenges, as well as the concept of risk appetite. That is like very interesting to understand how far in risk can we go, how much risk we can accept, or we don't want to accept anything in order to achieve our goals. Again, if you want high results, high profits, there are always risks on the other side. The higher the profit, the higher the risks. At some point, we need to understand based on our stakeholder or shareholder level, this is the limit. This is what we are ready to accept to achieve our goals. And this risk appetite may differ from industry to industry, from company to company, from market to market. You mentioned the PASTEL analysis. We can use the Porter 5 forces or competitive analysis. So this all together helps us to determine the risk appetite and then cascade it into the day-to-day operations. And again, another section related to risk appetite. It's section number 2.3 describes on the utilization of the risk appetite and risk appetite statement. So again, this is like one of the three tools that I would like outline for practical use straight away.
Yes, thank you so much for outlining it. And you also mentioned this derivatives crisis in 2008. And really, it's also example of Nassim Taleb, the author of this well-known Black Swan book, and also the hedge fund founder who, despite all this kind of market downfall and overall market crash, managed to earn money, managed to uplift his potential. And that's was why, because of the risk management. So just to overemphasize on what you have mentioned, why these tools are really practically important for us to deal even with this kind of very risky assets and how to balance the portfolio, but it's also about balancing the strategy within the company. And speaking about this concept of glocalization, which is quite popular now, and it used to be popular as well. So we talk about, so to say, converting, integrating these global risk perspectives into the local markets. Maybe you could provide us some examples in the energy sector or maybe some other field when these have had positive or rather negative impacts, because on the company level it has also to deal with kind of local risks. So is it additional burden to consider these global risks or it's opportunity?
Mm-hmm. That's a very challenging question, I would say. And as a risk manager, normally I say that I look on the dark side of the moon, because people see the bright side of the moon normally during night, and we just want to see what is behind, what is hiding, and what are the challenges, threats, and the risks that may basically face our business. And if we talk about glocalization, you fairly mentioned that this is the setup landscape we're working now, we're living now, and eventually we, again, based on the research and the analysis provided in different sources, we ended up with the previous economic era that was characterized by globalization, low interest rates, etc. And now we're moving to another economic area that is characterized by regionalization. And it started not only, let's say, this year or yesterday or a month ago. It started like a few years ago, I would say around 2020, maybe. The main, say, indicator was COVID, when we started this deglobalization. and the move towards global markets to more regional markets, regional unions, regional cooperation. And in this way, it emphasizes the role of glocalization. We have international standards, international requirements that has to be not only copy pasted into our operations in different markets. We need to adapt them, and basically glocalization in our case now equals to adaptation. So we need to understand what are the specifics of regional or local markets and how we can use or do not suffer from this regional specifics or local specifics. If we talk about my beloved energy sector and the Ukrainian integration into the European energy market, there is this directive called REMIT. So it's the a European regulation on wholesale energy market integrity and transparency that basically put the same ground on operations for energy companies within the broader European continent. And if we want to be a part of this market, we need to meet these standards. We need to build up the respective frameworks, governance, risk management systems, compliance systems in place. Also had a detailed overview of how it can be built within the Ukrainian energy sector, Ukrainian energy enterprises, so they are fully compliant. And the question of non-compliance can be easily quantified in penalties. If you don't meet these requirements, you suffer financial losses. Simple as that. So, and this is the cause of not meeting these requirements, not meeting the localization, and not meeting the market requirements. So, and this, but you also need to understand what are the specifics of Ukraine energy market. It's very specific and unique. We have very low carbon emissions in energy sector because of the role of our nuclear sector, nuclear energy power. So this all should be adjusted and again implemented not in a copy-paste option, but adapted, structured, and localized with meeting the requirement framework, I would say.
Thank you. You've already started like kind of answering my next question in terms of this European integration of Ukraine and overall which changes should be done, how to comply with. Maybe we could elaborate a bit more on the post-war recovery because I think it's vital on the post-war recovery stage to rethink current business practices, including in the energy fields, and to deal with these risks. Maybe it's a very, very like deep question, but maybe some kind of your initial thoughts on that and some kind of directions for us all to think about.
It's a very, very fair and philosophic question. So let me put my academic hat back to answer this question. And I would say the main word, the main concept answering to your question is resilience. I mean, this is, and we're talking not only about business resilience, we're talking about the national resilience. And we are living in the kind of setup when we have no other choice. Either we're resilient or we're out. And again, talking not only about business, but also about our national perspective and like three main components for the resilience. If you want to, let's say, further continue our path to European integration, is clearly the governance that has to be clear, understandable, and effective. The regulations has to be in place to make the market strict on one end, but efficient on other end. And again, the risk management. We are working in a very, again, in the beginning of our today's session, I was talking about the VUCA world. So risk management helps us to navigate safely and effectively in this in this VUCA world. And if we talk about the, let's say, national resilience and look on this through the business resilience elements that described in the book, I would outline the operational element. So we are ensuring that our resilience of supply chains, industrial and physical security is in place for the global nation, for the Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian government and the country. We talk about technological element. Uh, we're very lucky enough to have good minds in the country that are able to push all the technological advantages, developments to the edge. So we are top edge technologies are already in place. So we need to preserve this global leadership in IT, in localizing data, effectively responding to cyber attacks is very important, and deploying new equipment in different areas across different markets and different businesses. And again, it's not like super fancy and nice and progressive, but still the money is there. So we need to build up on the financial resilience. So we always need to maintain this sufficient level of identifying and prioritizing the key financial risks and developing the crisis protocols and building an early warning system for the macroeconomic and macro financial challenges that we have in the country. And again, the book, the approaches, the tools, the framework that is proposed, uh, I would say it's also helpful not only for business but also building up the national resilience. And yeah, I would be really happy that if these developments are used in a very broad scope, broad perspective.
Thank you so much, Mykhailo. All our conversation has been music to my ears, and the book has been music to my eyes. And I hope it will, I'm wishing you good luck, and I hope it will soon become also global bestseller because it's really practical, it's unique, because there are no alternatives of such kind of books, and it's really driven by your personal, very valuable experiences, which makes it even more practical and even more useful for everyone in the broader context. Just wishing you good luck and probably also hoping for the new iterations of this book and maybe the new book 2, book 3 to expand it and to make more readers be in it and be more aware in terms of the risk management. Yeah. Thank you so much. And the last but not the least, what will be your message to our viewers on how to continue moving forward regardless all the odds and also to achieve your dreams, professionals' dreams, and to share with others?
Yeah, first of all, Karyna, thank you for this great opportunity, for the chance to present and to discuss the book with you. Thank you for reading it and the fantastic and very straight to point questions. I really enjoyed our today's session, and maybe the very final word to our audience is again, keep on going, keep on developing, keep on reading, keep on exploring. Our world is moving now very fast. But again, keep moving, but keep this strategy in focus. So understand what is your ultimate and final goal and make it kind of flexible and agile so you can adapt the ever-changing environment and hopefully in order to address the risks and opportunities within this path toward your strategic goals, some of the items or tools or just some ideas are helpful in your journey.
Thank you so much for this motivational message. Really expanding the horizons is the key. And with our project, we try to motivate our viewers, participants, contributors to really keep up going in this connection. Thank you, Mykhailo, once again, and looking forward to our next conversations and hopefully to keep in touch. Thank you again.
Thank you, Karyna.